The stage lights cast a harsh glow, illuminating the tension that had built throughout the interview. What had started as a predictable clash between an established media figure and a rising political star transformed into something more profound. The usual bravado and sharp-tongued quips gave way to a moment of genuine reckoning, as Karoline Leavitt demonstrated the power of calm conviction and prepared facts over snarky insults. Gutfeld, known for his biting commentary and often dismissive attitude toward younger voices, sat visibly rattled. His attempt to reassert control fell flat as the weight of Leavitt's words settled across the room. It was clear that she wasn't just defending herself, she was making a statement about respect, inclusion, and the future of conservatism. The viewers at home were witnessing a generational shift play out in real time. Leavitt's poised response challenged not only Gutfeld's words, but also the culture that allowed such dismissiveness to thrive unchecked. She articulated a vision of politics that wasn't about tearing others down, but about building something meaningful, something inclusive, something forward-looking. Gutfeld's attempts to dismiss the moment as mere comedy and satire no longer held water. Leavitt had framed the conversation on her terms, emphasizing that words carry weight and that repeated disparagement of young conservatives serves only to alienate those the movement should be embracing. The atmosphere in the studio grew heavy with quiet understanding. The usual sharp banter was replaced by a shared awareness of a pivotal moment unfolding live on air. For the first time, it felt like conservative commentary was being held accountable in a way that wasn't about scoring points or staging drama, but about fostering genuine dialogue. Leavitt's message resonated beyond the studio walls. Her call for young conservatives to claim their rightful place in the movement struck a chord with countless viewers, especially those who had felt sidelined or dismissed. Her appeal was clear: conservatism needed to evolve and open its doors to fresh ideas and new voices, not repel them with tired insults and outdated hierarchies. As the segment wrapped, the silence from Gutfeld spoke volumes. He didn't mock, didn't retort, and didn't undermine what had just transpired. Instead, he simply sat back, seemingly acknowledging the moment's significance, even if unspoken. Leavitt's composure throughout the interview, her refusal to be baited or belittled, and her articulate, fact-based rebuttals exemplified a new kind of political engagement, one that values respect, clarity, and strength without aggression. In the aftermath, social media erupted, but what mattered most was the quiet shift in perception. This wasn't just a viral moment or a fleeting news cycle headline. It was a signal that the next generation of conservative leaders was ready to step forward, not by echoing old patterns, but by rewriting the script entirely. For all the drama and spectacle that cable news often manufactures, this evening had delivered something far rarer: authenticity, courage, and a vision for what politics could be when grounded in respect and conviction. And for Karoline Leavitt, this wasn't just a win on a televised debate stage. It was a declaration that the future belonged to those willing to stand firm, speak truthfully, and lead with integrity. The interview's impact rippled beyond the broadcast itself. Conversations ignited across dinner tables, social media feeds, and political circles, sparking debates about tone, inclusion, and leadership within conservative ranks. Leavitt's poised rebuttal became a rallying point for young conservatives eager to see a change in how their voices were heard and respected. She wasn't just defending herself, she was voicing a collective frustration with the old guard's reluctance to embrace new ideas and perspectives. This moment highlighted a growing divide between the establishment's entrenched patterns and the emerging generation's demand for a more thoughtful, principled discourse. It became evident that respect and substance could disrupt the cycle of mockery and dismissal that had long dominated political commentary. Meanwhile, behind the scenes at Fox News, the mood was noticeably different. Producers, commentators, and staffers recognized that the segment had transcended routine political theater. It was no longer about ratings or viral clips, it was about a realignment of voices within the conservative movement. Gutfeld's usual arsenal of sharp wit and biting sarcasm had met a barrier in Leavitt's unwavering calm and fact. While some panelists tried to break the tension with forced humor, the overall atmosphere was one of reflection and a subtle acknowledgement that the old tactics might be losing their effectiveness. Leavitt's preparation, the carefully gathered data, and the measured delivery was a reminder that authenticity and diligence could outmatch bluster and bravado. The broader implications of the interview stretched into ongoing conversations about political representation and media responsibility. Leavitt's insistence that words matter, that dismissive rhetoric marginalizes and silences, challenged not just one host but an entire approach to political discourse. It raised important questions. How do established voices make room for newcomers without resorting to derision? How can media platforms foster genuine debate without defaulting to personal attacks? And crucially, how can younger generations be encouraged to participate fully, knowing they won't be met with contempt or condescension? These questions echoed far beyond the confines of one interview, signaling a need for deeper cultural and structural change. For viewers, the segment was more than a spectacle. It was a call to action. Leavitt's closing remarks, urging young conservatives to claim their space and speak boldly, resonated widely. The viral clip wasn't just shared for its drama, but because it embodied a shift toward a more inclusive and respectful political dialogue. Many who had felt disenfranchised or ignored found hope in her words, a reminder that leadership isn't about tearing others down, but lifting new voices up. The conversation sparked by that night's interview continued to unfold, inspiring discussions about mentorship, inclusion, and the kind of politics that prioritizes ideas over insults. It was a defining moment that captured a pivotal moment of change within conservative politics, setting a new standard for engagement and respect. As days passed, the momentum built steadily. Talk shows, podcasts, and opinion columns picked apart every exchange, not just focusing on the clash itself, but unpacking the deeper themes Leavitt had raised. Conversations about generational divides in politics intensified, with commentators debating whether the conservative movement was ready to evolve or still anchored in old habits. Leavitt's calm assertiveness was held up as a model for how emerging leaders might approach similar challenges, not with anger or defensiveness, but with clarity and preparation. The interview became a case study in effective communication, especially for those navigating hostile environments. In an age of sound bites and social media outrage, her methodical dismantling of Gutfeld's remarks proved that thoughtful engagement still had power. The response from within political circles was mixed but revealing. Some senior Republicans expressed discomfort with the tone of the segment, worried it might deepen intra-party divisions. Others quietly admired Leavitt's ability to stand firm and spotlight the problematic language often casually used in political media. For many young conservatives, however, Leavitt was a beacon, proof that they didn't have to compromise their values or voices to be taken seriously. Her performance wasn't just a win for her personally, it was a symbolic victory for all those sidelined or dismissed due to age, gender, or perceived outsider status. It was a reminder that influence is not always about tenure, but about the strength of one's convictions and ability to articulate them. In the days following the broadcast, Leavitt's social media presence exploded. Messages of support poured in from across the country, from small-town activists to students on college campuses, from grassroots organizers to seasoned political strategists. Many shared their own stories of being belittled or marginalized, and expressed hope that this moment marked a turning point. Leavitt herself remained measured, using the platform not to gloat, but to call for continued dialogue and mutual respect. She emphasized that this wasn't about winning an argument, but about reshaping how political discourse happens, moving away from insults and towards ideas, away from exclusion and towards inclusion. It was a message that resonated far beyond partisan lines. Meanwhile, the dynamics at Fox News subtly shifted. While Gutfeld returned to his usual programming, the echoes of that interview lingered. Producers reportedly encouraged guests and hosts to consider more carefully how they engage with younger voices and alternative viewpoints. The network's social media accounts, often quick to highlight confrontations and viral moments, instead started sharing clips of substantive policy discussions and civil exchanges. While this wasn't an overnight transformation, it signaled a recognition that the audience was craving something different. Leavitt's moment had punctured the bubble of predictable outrage, reminding everyone involved, from hosts to viewers, that there was power in respect, preparation, and purpose. Leavitt's political career gained new momentum as a result. Invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and conservative gatherings multiplied. She became a sought-after voice for those wanting to understand the evolving identity of the right-wing movement. Yet despite the sudden rise in visibility, she remained grounded. In interviews and speeches, she consistently returned to the themes of inclusivity, respect for differing viewpoints within the conservative spectrum, and the importance of elevating policy over personality. Her approach inspired a wave of young activists and politicians who saw in her example a way to push for change without resorting to spectacle or divisiveness. It was a balancing act, but one she managed with a growing sense of ease and confidence. The conversation sparked by that night's interview also rippled into broader political discourse, influencing how both sides approached debates and media appearances. Other commentators began to reflect on their own language, particularly when it came to addressing newcomers or dissenting voices within their ranks. The phenomenon was not limited to conservative circles. Liberals and centrists also took note of the power dynamics exposed during the exchange. This moment became a reference point for discussions about tone, civility, and the barriers young leaders face across the political spectrum. The episode underscored the idea that political progress often requires confronting uncomfortable truths, including those about how insiders treat those challenging the status quo. Despite the acclaim, Leavitt remained focused on the work ahead. Behind the scenes, she was known for meticulous preparation, working closely with her team to develop detailed policy proposals and community outreach strategies. The interview was only one part of a larger mission to rebuild trust in political institutions and restore a sense of purpose to conservative politics. She knew that moments of viral success were fleeting, and the real challenge lay in sustained effort. Her constituents, many of whom had experienced economic hardship and political alienation, looked to her not just for bold words, but for tangible results. Her continued emphasis on listening to their concerns and delivering practical solutions reinforced her growing reputation as a politician who cared deeply about substance. In retrospect, that Fox News interview marked a pivotal moment not just in Leavitt's career, but in how media and politics intersected. It highlighted the risks and rewards of confronting powerful figures on their own turf, and demonstrated that authenticity and preparation can disarm even the most seasoned provocateurs. More importantly, it showed that the future of political leadership might belong to those who refuse to be sidelined, those willing to claim their space respectfully but unapologetically as political landscapes continue to shift. Leavitt's example offers a blueprint for how to navigate the complexities of media, message, and moment with integrity and impact. If you like this video, then subscribe.